Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, April 21st. I hope you guys had a good day yesterday, and we'll continue on going. I'm joined here by a giant green dog. This one's new. And let's get started. Taking a look at our learning opportunities for this week, we did change it up yesterday, so take a look at those for math and reading. Ms. Summerfield posted reading, I posted math. So we do have those changes in the IXL learning opportunities. If you're having any trouble with the math stuff, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you out or do a little quick video to help you get a refresher on those things. So let me know if you have any questions. Free lunch and breakfast up at the high school. Yesterday was chicken patty on a bun. It was delicious. Cal and Emery really enjoyed it. So take advantage of those free between 11 and 1 o'clock. And you don't need to call ahead. You can just go pick it up. If you have any questions, I love hearing from you. So whether that's calling me or sending an email or Dojo is usually the fastest way. But let me know. I love hearing from you guys. Make sure you guys are staying safe and staying home. All right, taking a look at the academic side of things. We've got math. Make sure you guys are doing Prodigy 15-20 minutes a day. That's right down here. If you're having trouble getting logged in or if you have any other issues, let me know. IXL, like I said, I'll even go over the new math ones here in a second, but take a look at the classroom one for IXL. Also, I posted a Kahoot, so take a look at that one. Challenge some family or friends. You can play, do yours. You can see if somebody else wants to play with you and see if you can do better. But take a look at that Kahoot. Reading, we've got 20 to 30 minutes of that every day. Make sure you're doing those, whether it's an epic or a book. But take a look at those. IXL, again, take a look at Miss Summerfeld's. Socrative, make sure you answer that question that I can submit to Senator Bewley, and they will get a video together for us, and she may answer one of your questions. So make sure you put your name and a question for that. Phi-Ed, music, art, guidance. Check out that specialist page on Class Dojo. They all, Mr. Buckley, Mr. Warner, Ms. Lesnar, they all posted new stuff yesterday. So take a look at those, and they have some really good things in there. Just like I said, and I went over this yesterday, but take a look at your multiplication one for IXL. It's just a 1 by 2 digit number. Some of you guys have gotten really good at these. Most of us do it lattice. Some of you guys might do it a little bit differently, but regardless, take a look at those. Fraction equivalencies. This one's actually pretty easy. It kind of gives you like a picture like this, and it's going to tell you, all right, so 1/2 is equal to how many fourths? And you just have to say what it is. So it isn't too bad. And of course, this one would be 2/4. So that isn't too bad. Take a look at that. Angles, whether they're acute, right, obtuse, or straight. Take a look at those. Perimeter. Remember, P equals length plus plus width. And of course, area is equal to length times width. So take a look at those. The City of Ember. We read yesterday. We've got Lena and Dune. They're traveling in the tunnels underneath the city, and they're trying to figure out what this mysterious door is all about and these weird, crazy instructions. Here is the map of these. And here's where the Pipeworks building is. This is where they went down to get into the Pipeworks. So it would have been right here. On top of this underground river. If you remember, the vegetable market's over here and the greenhouses are over here as well. Here's that copy of the letter that Lena had and kind of put together. So they kind of are trying to figure out something about Pipeworks here, marked by something here. They're trying to figure out what all of this is. So mysterious things are happening, right? River, Pipeworks, marked by, we've got all these weird different words. Small steel pan, right? Find a door. These are the things that they're trying to solve. And our chapter now is chapter 10, Blue Sky and Goodbye. So this is new. If you remember, they really don't have any sky there because it's always it's dark except for the electricity. So it'll be interesting to see what the blue sky is all about, or the goodbye for that matter. Lena slept restlessly that night. She had frightening dreams in which something dangerous was lurking in the darkness. When the lights went on in the morning, she opened her eyes. The first thing she thought was of the door in the pipeworks, and right away she felt a thud of disappointment because the door was locked, and someone else, not her, knew what was behind it. She went in to wake Granny. "Time to get up," she said, but Granny didn't answer. She was lying with her mouth half open and breathing in a strange, hoarse way. "Don't feel good," she finally said in a weak voice. Lena felt Granny's forehead. It was hot. Her hands were very cold. She ran for Miss Murdo, and after that to Clothing Square to tell Captain Fleary she would not be coming to work today. Then she ran to Oliver Street, to the office of Dr. Tower, where she banged on the door until the doctor opened it. Dr. Tower was a thin woman with uncombed hair and shadows under her eyes. When she saw Lena, she seemed to grow even more tired. "Dr. Tower," Lena said, "my grandmother is sick. Will you come?" "I will," she said, "but I can't promise to help her. I'm low on medicine." "But come and look. Maybe she doesn't need medicine." Lena led the doctor a few blocks to her house. When she saw Granny, the doctor sighed. "How are you, Granny Mayfleet?" she asked. Granny looked at the doctor blearily. "I think ill," she said. Dr. Tower laid a hand across her forehead. She asked her to stick out her tongue and listen to her heart and her breathing. "She has a fever," the doctor told Lena. "You'll need to stay home with her today. Maybe make her some soup, give her water to drink, put rags of cool water and lay them across her forehead." She picked up Granny's bony hand and rough reddish one. "What's best for you is to sleep today," she said. "Your granddaughter will take care of you." And all that day, that's what Lena did. She made a thin soup of spinach and onions and fed it to Granny a spoonful at a time. She stroked Granny's forehead, held her hand, and talked to her about cheerful things. She kept Poppy as quiet as she could, but as she did this, in the back of her mind was the memory of the days of her father's illness, when he seemed to be growing dim like a lamp losing power, and the sound of his breathing was like water gurgling through a clogged pipe. Though she didn't want to, she also remembered that evening when Father let out one last short breath and didn't take another. And that morning, a few months later, when Dr. Tower emerged with her mother's bedroom with a crying baby and a face that was heavy with bad news. In the late afternoon, Granny got restless. She lifted herself up on one elbow. "Did we find it?" she asked Lena. "Did we ever find it?" "Find what, Granny?" "The thing that was lost," Granny said. "The thing that my grandfather lost." "Yes," said Lena. "Don't worry, Granny. We found it. It's safe now." "Oh, good." Granny sank back into her pillows and smiled at the ceiling. "What a relief," she said. She coughed a couple of times, closed her eyes, and fell asleep. Lena stayed home from work the next day as well. It was a long day. Granny dozed most of the time. Poppy was delighted to have Lena at home to play with. Kept toddling over things she found, dust rags, kitchen spoons, stray shoes, and whacking them against Lena's knees and saying, "Play with this, play with this." Lena was glad to play with her, but after a while she'd had enough of spoon banging and rag tugging and shoe rolling. "Let's do something else," she said to Poppy. "Shall we draw?" Granny had drunk a full cup of soup from dinner and was falling asleep again, so Lena got her colored pencils and the two of the can labels she'd been saving. They were white on the back and made good enough drawing paper, if you flattened them out. With the sharpest kitchen knife, she whittled the pencils to a point. She gave the green pencil and the one label to Poppy. She herself took the blue pencil and smoothed out the other can label on the side. What would she draw? Taking hold of the pencil was like opening a tap inside her mind, through which her imagination flowed. She could feel the pictures ready to come out. It was a sort of pressure, like water in a pipe. She always thought she would draw something wonderful, but what she actually drew was never quite matching the feeling. It was like when she tried to tell a dream. The words never really captured how it felt. Poppy was grasping the pencil in her fist and making a wild scribble. "Look it!" she cried. "Lovely," said Lena. Then, without even a clear idea of what it was to be, she began her own picture. She started on the left side of the can label. She first drew a tall, narrow box, a building. Then more boxes next to it, a cluster of buildings. Next she drew a few tiny people, walking in the street below the buildings. It was what she nearly always drew, the other city. Every time she drew it, she felt she had the same frustrating feeling. There was more to be drawn. There were other things to be in the city. There were marvels there, but she couldn't imagine what they were. All she knew is that this city was different and was bright in a different way than Ember. Where the brightness came from, she didn't know. She drew more buildings and filled in the windows and the doors, and she put street lamps. She added a greenhouse. All the way across the paper she drew buildings of different sizes. All of the buildings were white, because that was the color of the paper. She set her pencil down for a moment and studied what she'd done. It was time to fill in the sky. In the pictures she had done with regular pencils. The sky in its true color, black, but this time she made it blue, since she was using her blue pencil. Methodically, as Poppy scratched and scribbled beside her, Lena colored in the space above the buildings, her pencil moving back and forth in short lines, until the entire sky was blue. She sat back and looked at their picture. Wouldn't it be strange, she thought, to have a blue sky? But she liked the way it looked. It would be beautiful, a blue sky. Poppy had started using her pencil to poke holes in her paper. Lena folded up her own picture and took Poppy's away from her. "Time for dinner," she said. Sometime deep in the night, Lena woke suddenly, thinking she'd heard something. Had she been dreaming? She lay still, her eyes open in the darkness. The sound came again, a weak, trembling call. "Lena." She got up and started for Granny's room. Although she had lived in the same house all of her life, she still had trouble finding her way at night. When the darkness was complete, it was as if the walls had shifted slightly, the furniture moved to new places. Lena stayed close to the walls, feeling her way along. Here was a bedroom door. Here was the kitchen. Here was the table. She winced as she stubbed her on one of its legs. A little farther, she'd come to the far wall and the door to Granny's room. Granny's voice was like a thin line of dark air. "Lena, come and help. I need." "I'm coming, Granny," she called. She stumbled over something, a shoe maybe, and fell against the bed. "Here I am, Granny," she said. She felt for Granny's hand. It was very cold. "I feel so strange," said Granny, her voice in a whisper. I dreamed about my baby, or someone's baby." Lena sat down on the bed. Carefully, she moved her hands over the narrow ridge of her grandmother's body until she came to her shoulders, where her fingers tangled in long wisps of Granny's hair. She pressed a finger against the side of Granny's throat to feel for her pulse, as the doctor had shown her. It was fluttery, like a moth that was hurt itself on flapping in crooked circles. "Can I get you some water, Granny?" Lena asked. She couldn't think of what else to do. "No water," Granny said. "Just stay for a while." Lena tucked one foot underneath her and pulled apart the blanket over her lap. She took hold of Granny's hand again and stroked it gently with one finger. For a long time, neither of them said anything. Lena sat listening to her grandmother's breathing. She would take a deep, shuddering breath and let it out as a sigh. Then there would be a long silence before the next breath came. Lena closed her eyes. No use keeping them open. There was nothing to see in the dark. She was aware only of her grandmother's cold, thin hand and the sound of her breathing. Every now and then Granny would mumble a few words Lena couldn't make out, and then Lena would stroke her forehead and say, "Don't worry, it's all right. It's almost morning," though she didn't know if it was or not. After a long time, Granny stirred slightly and seemed to come awake. "You go to bed, dear," she said. "I'm all right now." Her voice was clear but very faint. "You go back to sleep." Lena bent forward until her head rested against Granny's shoulder. Granny's soft hair tickled her face. "All right then," she whispered. "Good night, Granny." She squeezed her grandmother's shoulders gently, and she stood up and a wave of terrible loneliness swept over her. She wanted to see Granny's face, but the darkness hid everything. It might still be a long time until morning, and she didn't know. She groped her way back to her own bed, and fell into a deep sleep. And when hours later the clock struck 6 and the lights came on, Lena went fearfully into her grandmother's room. She found her very pale, very still, all the life gone out of her. All right, kind of a sad chapter. For chapter 11, hopefully it'll be a little bit better. We've got Lizzie's groceries. And to cheer you up a little bit, I put some pictures of here of when we were doing buddies again. I think this was early in the year we were doing our puzzles. So if you take a look there, a little happier time here. Everybody's having a good time drawing in our puzzles, if you remember that. So I hope you guys are enjoying the story. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I know Emery and the dog and I are enjoying the story, even if it's a little sad, but I think it's going to cheer up. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Have a happy Earth Day. Get outside, play around, and enjoy those days. Emery, can you say hi and say goodbye?
Goodbye. Goodbye.
I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.